All right, my friends, we are ready to start. Yes, we are learning Siman Shin Chaf. And we are up to, we're going to start with the Machaber. Seif
Yud
Tes, Seif Tes.
Second?
Seif Tes.
Tet.
Okay.
Oh, Tet in a Sherik.
Yeah.
Yeah, so right there.
Okay, so what we're going to learn about now, I'll just give you a little introduction. What we're going to learn about now, we actually already learned about in Siman 318, many moons ago, when we learned about taking fat, congealed fat. We said there was a question if you were allowed to take congealed fat and melt it, like put it on the oven, even if it's not going to get the yatzaletas boy. But maybe it's not allowed. We had different opinions about that.
Only fat by itself? Or
Only
the
fat
chicken?
by itself. No, even the chicken and the fat, if it's not going to be absorbed, if it's just going to be melted and sit there, we had a machloket if you're allowed to do that. If you're allowed to melt fat.
Well, Lawrence, it doesn't, nobody eat that, so
Why not? It's the best part. You don't eat this.
Really?
The gravy. I don't mean like fat. I mean the gravy.
The gravy, I mean, we love to
That's
study that. We don't really, it's come together, it's like we don't consider it like.
I love it. What do you mean?
That's why we love to put it. That's why we learn that.
It's a machloket. It's a machloket.
I put it outside by the sun. I started warming by the sun. Gravy.
Machloket. Machloket. Machloket, if you're allowed to melt gravy. Because some say when you melt gravy, it's like you're creating liquid. You're creating liquid from solid. Another reason perhaps to be strict is that it's like squeezing the fruit to get the juice out. When you squeeze a fruit, you get the juice out. So that juice is forbidden because you might come to squeeze it. So the liquid gravy comes from the solid gravy. It's similar to the liquid juice that comes out of the solid fruit. And maybe it should be forbidden also.
What do you do with the gravy?
Well, a few things. First of all, it's a machloket. Some say it's not forbidden unless you actually squeeze it. If you squeeze it, then it's forbidden. But if you just take it out, then it on its own, it becomes liquid. It's no problem. We're going to have the same argument over here. Are you allowed to take out ice from the freezer and put it in a warm place to melt? Some say yes. Some say no. But for sure, you're not allowed to squeeze the ice. You're not allowed to rub the ice or break it up into pieces. If you do that, you're definitely creating. But if it melts on its own, it's a machloket. Question?
If we take orange juice and we squeeze it, yes, we squeeze the orange juice, but the chicken, it's a chicken. The sauce is separated, basically.
I'm not talking about the sauce out of the chicken. I'm talking about the gravy, which is congealed, that became hard.
And it stays stuck around.
And it's stuck to make it liquid, to melt it.
It's machloket.
I know.
But we allowed to do that.
Sephardim are allowed. Ashkenazim are not allowed.
Really?
Really.
So how can we do the chamin?
What's the matter?
The chamin, there's a greasy over there.
Chamin, what do you do? What do you do?
Oh, it's cooked from
I'm talking about taking it out of the fridge, where it's congealed, and putting it in a warm place to melt. That's what I'm talking about. Now, going back to what we said then, just for your information, we had opinions that even the strict opinion only says you cannot put it in a warm place to melt, like in the sun or on top of the stove, even where it's not going to get Yad Tzaledes Boy. If it's going to get Yad Tzaledes Boy, you have another problem, that maybe you're cooking on Shabbos. Because Yesh Bishal Acha Bishal Balach. Now, of course, this is starting as a solid, but it becomes a liquid. The Alter Rebbe and the Siddur holds that you have to consider it a liquid already, so that's a separate problem. But even if it's not going to become Yad Tzaledes Boy, you're putting it far away from the fire. It's just going to melt, but you are considered to be kind of doing it like yourself, like putting it there. On the other hand, some say that if you don't put it near the oven, you just put it in the room temperature, and it liquefies, they say that even according to the Ramah, it's okay. Because that's not considered that you did it. That's considered just like normal, natural. You just took it out of the fridge. The fridge is where it was being kept congealed in an unnatural way. But room temperature, that's just the normal situation. Sorry?
The normal state.
The normal state. You put it into a normal state. That's not considered like your specific action. So that was a separate machloket. And by the way, when we apply it back to ice, we have the same machloket. Because we speak over here about not breaking ice. Everybody agrees you can't break the ice. But if you just melt it without breaking it, so it's a machloket. Again, according to the strict opinion by the Gravy, which is basically the Sefer HaTruma, for your information, and that's how the Ramah paskins. You cannot melt it, even not with your hands. But according to the other Rishonim, the Ramban, and others, the Ran, you can, as long as you don't do it actively with your hands. Now, when the Sefer HaTruma says you can't do it, some say, again, it only means you can't take it out of the freezer and put it in a warm place, like in the sun or above the stove or whatever. But just to take it out and put it at room temperature, that's okay.
If you live in the tent.
The tent? Whose tent? Avram's?
They have a refrigerator in their tent. And,
Bedouins.
When you go to camping, you're in a car.
Yeah.
So basically, you live in a tent, but you have a refrigerator in there,
Okay, the point is you don't put it in a special place to warm up. You just put it in the normal place. So
it's not a melacha, it's not a machloket.
That is a machlokes if it's a machlokes. Meaning to say, if you put it in the sun, it's definitely a machlokes. It's a machlokes Rishonim. Sefer HaTruma says not allowed. Ramban on the Ran says that it is allowed. If you put it in the room temperature, then there's a machlokes of contemporary poskim, not the Rishonim. Rav Shlomo Zalman, Rav Vosner, different opinions amongst people who were alive recently, if that's the same as putting it in the sun or not. Listen, Rav Shlomo Zalman is lenient, and he was very big in Hilchos Shabbos. So definitely yesh makom la'akel. There is room for leniency. I mean, on the other hand, it's easy to do it in a permissible way according to all opinions, because if you put ice into water and melts, everybody agrees that it's allowed. Because there, the water that you create is not separately visible. What's the problem with melting ice into water? Two problems. Two problems. One is that it looks like you're creating something new. You're taking ice and making water out of it. You're creating something new. Number two is that it looks like the squeezed fruit juice that comes out of fruit, similar to that. Well, that's only if it melts on its own, or if you melt it on its own. But if it melts into something else, like you put liquid in water already, so then, first of all, it doesn't look like you're creating anything, because what you create is never a separate entity. It becomes part of something else. And second of all, it also doesn't look like squeezing, because, again, you never see anything separate. Squeeze fruit juice, you see fruit juice over here, it just becomes part of the bigger thing. So it's not really noticeable, and therefore it's allowed. So my point is, if I make it into water, even in room temperature, it's very easy to make it permissible according to all opinions by just putting it into water. So you don't have to use this.
What's having money is actually is frozen bottle of water.
Yeah.
Take it out of the freezers and by forgot, oh, it's frozen.
Yeah.
Put it on the table.
Yeah.
You know, on Shabbos, then it's gonna melt by itself.
Machloket.
Machlokas.
There, you're not going to be able to put it into water because it doesn't get out of the bottle. It's stuck in the bottle. So that's machloket.
All right. I have a question. What's the machloket? I know the Sephardim, it's okay to put water in the freezer to make it ice. Some Ashkenaz machmir.
Yeah.
What's the reason?
We're going to learn that today. Be'ezrat Hashem. That's the plan. All right. Here we go with Seif Test. After that brief introduction, here we go. Hasheleg. Vehaborod. The snow and the hail. Ein meraskin oisam, you cannot squeeze them. Why does it not talk about ice? How do you say ice in Hebrew? Kara. Why doesn't it talk about ice? Very simple, because they didn't used to have ice. They had hail and they had snow. Where do you get ice from? If you don't have a freezer and you don't live near a lake that has ice, you don't have ice. You have snow and you have hail. Okay, but the truth is the same thing would apply to ice. Ein meraskin oisam. You can't squeeze them. Tahainu, which means l'shoibram lachatichas dakis, to break them into small pieces. Kadeshi yazuvu meimav, in order for the water to flow. You're allowed to put it into a cup of wine or water, and it will melt of its own accord, and it's no problem. And it's no problem. Now, for your information, here it sounds like it's only allowed if it's going to be nimoyach me'elav, if it's going to melt on its own in the water or the wine. What if you put into the water the wine, but you're in a rush? You want it to melt fast. So in the water or the wine, you actually squeeze it. So you don't let it melt on its own. You squeeze it, you melt it. But you melt it directly into something else. So it's never really noticeable. So here we have another machlekes. But this isn't between the sefer, right? Because this is in the opinion, this is a case where you're actually melting it biyadayim, mamish, with your hands, which everybody agrees is forbidden. That's the Gemara. The Gemara says, "Ein meraskin es hasheleg lesavar." You're not allowed to squeeze these things. So everybody agrees to that. The question is it permissible perhaps when you do it directly into a liquid? And again, coming back to what this is all about. This is all about either about creating something new or about looking like you are squeezing the fruits to get out their juice, because the ice is kind of, like a solid, not kind of, it is a solid. And the liquid that comes out of it is a liquid, a halachic liquid, certainly. And it's similar in that way to fruit juice coming out of fruit. And both of those reasons, you could say, well, that's only if you're squeezing it and it's going to be a separate thing that you're squeezing. So then it looks like a new creation. Then it looks like fruit juice. But even if you're squeezing it yourself, mamish, but it doesn't become a separate entity, maybe it doesn't look like fruit juice. Maybe it doesn't look like creating anything new because it's being absorbed. So right here, it sounds from the Mechaber like he is strict on this, because he says, that it will melt on its own. However, the Mishnah Berurah does say some allow even if you do it directly with your hands into the cup. This is in the name of the Tosefta. Okay, we continue and we say, so too, if he put it in the sun or opposite a fireplace. The reason he says opposite a fireplace is because he doesn't want to say on the stovetop, because you're not supposed to put something in a place that looks like cooking. So he says opposite a fireplace, the nifsharu, and they melt, mutarim, it's allowed. This is the opinion of Roiv Rishonim. Like I said before, the Ramban and the Ran would say that if it happens on its own, it's okay. It's okay lechatchila to do, and certainly b'diavad, if it was already done, it's okay to use it. However, the Ramah disagrees. He doesn't bring his disagreement here because he already in Shin Yud Ches, and you're supposed to remember from 2 Simanim away. The Ramah already said there that it's proper to be strict and not do this. However, he did say that b'di eved you could rely on Roiv Rishonim. So that would mean that lachatchila you don't take ice out to have it melt on its own, whether in a spot that's hot or room temperature, depending on the opinions of the Achrayim. However, if you took it out and it melted, b'di eved, the Ramah said before, you can rely on the lenient opinion. Now, this is relevant when you take out ice and you put it in a bucket for people to help themselves to it. And eventually the ice melts. That's normal. Are you allowed to drink that water or not? Yes? You're allowed to drink that water or not?
Bucket that melted.
The ice bucket that melted, yes.
Yes.
No, we don't like. I think we don't like.
You'll hear a murmuring of no.
I don't think so because it's considered to like we don't allow to put ice close to the medurah, to the fire. So here is something you put it outside at the bucket to melt it.
You said we're not allowed, but I just read exactly what it says here. Mutarim.
Mutarim, you said?
You have it.
Okay, so it's mutar.
Yeah. I told you the Ramah is strict. The Ramah is strict. The Machaber is lenient.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So why did you ask the question then? I mean, it's b'di eved, it's okay either way.
Question to make sure we get the answers right.
Okay.
That according to the Machaber, it's permissible in the first place. And according to the Ramah, it is mutter also b'diavad. Now, I want to point out that it could be even, according to the Ramah, it's even mutter in this place, because when you took it out, put in an ice bucket, your intention was not to melt it. Your intention was that people should take ice for themselves. So what happens? It melted, but that wasn't your intention. Especially in light of the fact, like I told you, Shlomo Zalman holds that the whole thing, according to the Ramah, even is only to put it in a warm place where you're going out of your way to melt it. But taking it out and putting it in the room temperature where it's just like room temperature, I'm not doing anything, whatever happens, happens. Shlomo Zalman is lenient, so I wouldn't say it's even aser lachatchila either.
Right.
But certainly b'diavad, it's okay.
We said we have only snow and the barat. So if
In
you
those days, only had
if you
snow.
take it in a bucket and you bring it home, so the vadaut you want it to melt it to drink it.
So what's wrong?
So the mutar the way. Okay.
Yeah, we just read it together.
Yeah.
Ma baya?
אין שום בעיה.
Ta'amin la machaber. I was just learning with my son in Bava Metzia that, sorry? Amunas Chachamim. There was a man who came to Rav, and he asked him about a certain object, if he could keep it or not, because either didn't have a Siman or it was something very old. It was there for a long time. Rav could tell that it was totally neglected and forgotten about. So Rav said, yeah, you can keep it. So the guy, he could see the guy wasn't so, he wanted to be more religious than Rav. Rav said, it's okay, give half to my son. You don't want to keep it? Okay, my son will take it. It's okay. Anyway, so the Machaber says it's okay. It's okay. No problem. Ice, hail, snow. Ice and snow and hail are just to have in those days. Same thing for today.
So what was the evidence for the squeezing the pieces of ice inside the drink already?
Inside the drink already is a machlokes. What did the Mishnah Berurah say? He says yesh matirin, and he doesn't say what the halacha is. Let's also see what the Alter Rebbe says, and maybe we'll get some
Would there be a
clarity.
difference between that and stirring the drink quicker to be able to have ice melt?
I don't know if that's considered as direct. You know what I mean? That you're just stirring it.
What's the case?
Talking about taking the ice and crushing it while it's in the cup. Exactly.
You think this is going to make the ice melt?
Of course. Yeah,
Because
try
you
it.
heat of the hand,
Heat of your hand and just the pressure. Sure.
and stirring.
If the other stirring is.
I don't know if stirring is as direct. I don't know if stirring is as direct. No, I don't know if it's as direct. You're basically spreading around the water. You have the cold water kind of sits around the ice. And then when you stir it, so the warm water that's below comes up. It's still not as direct as with your hands. I don't know. I don't think that would be a problem, according to them. According to everybody.
Not to give examples. I'm just going to give an example. We don't have to give.
Okay.
Rabbi,
Yes.
some kids fell down and he got a bruise in the hand. You're allowed to take a zip bag of ice and put it in your hand.
You tell me.
The way they said, you don't allow to put it in the body.
What?
I mean, we don't allow to hold the ice to melt it. And if you take the ice and you put it in your hand, it's like it's in the body
The
warm.
body heat, just like in your hand.
That's not your intention.
But that's not intent.
That's why I'm
You're
asking
not
the question.
intending to melt this, you're intending to help you.
to take care of bruise.
Even if you intend to melt it, you're not melting it with your hands. Melting it is squeezing it. If you put it on your body and it melts,
And
that's
also,
not called
also the reason it's not for drink also. It makes sense.
Okay.
Also.
that's also true. That's also true. For Shabbos.
You're allowed to melt an ice cube inside the mouth.
Yes,
There's not much.
that's definitely derech achila. Definitely derech achila.
If you want crushed ice, you have to put ice in your mouth, crush away the cube and put it back in the cup. You like crushed ice?
One more time. One more time.
Crushed ice?
Are we allowed to crush ice? You tell me.
Wasn't really
In your mouth? In your mouth?
Are we allowed to crush ice, or what do you say?
No, you're not a crushed ice.
Not allowed to crush ice. What's your question?
Are you not crushed ice in your mouth and put it back in the cup?
No. The whole point is that it's derech achila. That's not derech achila. See what I'm saying?
The end result would be the achila.
Yeah, but that's not derech achila. Crushing in your mouth and then.
What's the problem with crushing it with ice?
Now you're asking. You have to come on time for that. All right, we'll tell you. No, somebody help out Rafal. A bit of Abbas Yisrael.
Is it like tochen?
Toiche, no. Help out Daniel. No, a bit of Abbas Yisrael. What's going on?
Is it a nolad?
Noilad is one reason, correct. It's like moilid. It's like you're creating it. Noilad is why it's also b'di'evan.
And it's marasan that you're.
But lachatchila you shouldn't do it either because it's moilid. It's like you're creating something new. You're creating water. That's correct.
What if I just take ice in a Ziploc bag and hit it with a hammer?
That's also creating
Why am I
ice.
creating water?
You're creating water. What does that
Little
mean?
sparks of water?
When you crush ice, you create water. Not just little sparks. You actually create water. Why are you saying just little sparks?
I'm saying it's frozen ice.
Saying, but if you crush it, it will melt.
Then it turns into smaller pieces of ice.
And then melt. As you crush it, it'll melt, of course. Try it.
No, I hear, but I just don't. I don't think maybe the first crush, but maybe the continual crush.
Yeah, maybe not the first crush, but it will. Okay. That answer your question? That's all one reason. What's the other reason, Rabbi saying?
So the first answer was no one?
We're holding the Mechaber Yud. We just finished test.
It appears like you're squeezing.
I'm sorry?
It appears like schita.
It appears like schita, correct. Explain, please. Why does it appear like schita?
Squeezing something out of the rock.
Because you're squeezing it and juice is coming out.
Exactly. So it's like squeezing a fruit that is lischoit, right? It's like squeezing grapes, olives, which are expected to be squeezed. Well, that's derisa. This isn't derisa. But even oranges or other things that are expected to be squeezed. So this is also something you expect to liquefy, right? You want ice to liquefy generally. I mean, usually, not always.
Not really.
Not always, but
I'd actually rather my ice melted. You don't want water in your drink. You want the ice cubes to maintain the coolness of your drink.
the truth is, it's not about the fact that you are now wanting it to liquefy. It's about the fact that generally ice liquefies. So it's similar to fruits that are generally squeezed. It's not that you want it right now. That's not the point. It's similar because just like this is expected to become liquid, this is also expected to become liquid. That's why it's included perhaps in the gzeira of mashkin shezavu. That is even forbidden b'diavad. Not only is it forbidden to do, but even after you did it, it's also even b'diavad, like mashkin shezavu. So those are the two issues here. Is that it? Have we answered your questions?
Yeah.
Good.
Mashkin shezavu or no?
Exactly.
There's no problem. I think we learned this from last August. There's no. It says in the Machaber writes, "Aval noten hu letoch kos shel yain or mayim hu nimach me'elav ve'en choshesh." There's no difference between you putting the drink first, then the ice, and you putting the ice first and then the drink.
No difference, no. All right, my friends, here we go. Sif Yud. You're allowed to break the ice in order to get to the water underneath it. You left your barrel of water outside in New York or Chicago or any of those places that are experiencing
Lake.
cold. No, not a lake, your barrel. And in the morning, you can't get to your water. So the Machaber says you're allowed to break the ice to get to the water. Why? Because there you're not crushing the ice into water. You're just breaking the ice to get to the water. Maybe some of the ice will also melt as you're breaking it. Maybe not. That's not your intention. And the actual act of breaking ice, that's no problem on Shabbos. Not like you're breaking a keli or anything, right? It's not like you're cutting in a measured way. You're just breaking something that's not connected to the ground. No problem. Just like we had before about ripping open a leather that was covering a barrel. That's permissible because you're not destroying the keli, you're not cutting in a measured way. Same thing with the ice. Now, you asked about a lake. Yes? What does the class think? Allowed or not allowed? Should be allowed to break open the ice. Exactly. The Magen Avraham. Exactly. The Magen Avraham says, no good. Connected to the ground. So you're breaking something connected to the ground. Much more strict. Why? Because when something is connected to the ground, that is real steer. Anything that's not connected to the ground, so breaking it is only steer if it's a keli. You understand? But if it's connected to the ground, that's like real steer. That's like you break part of a building.
Why we not say?
Not allowed.
Why we not say, Rabbi? Yes, it's connected, but it's a really ice is melted, so it's basically it's not connected.
It's not gonna. What do you mean? It's the winter. It's not melting anytime soon. It's gonna maybe stay ice for 6 months. I don't know.
Right in the summer.
I'm saying maybe yeah, maybe no. Look at now in April in New York, it's still very cold. So the truth is, even though whatever, but the Tosfos Shabbos says more or less what you're saying. Tosfos Shabbos says we see in other areas, we see that ice is not considered a mechitza because it's not lasting. It comes and it goes. So it's not considered a mechitza in terms of Hilchos Shabbos. I mean, he says it actually over here about mevatel and mechitza. It's not mevatel and mechitza. But the point is, it doesn't help you in the halachas of a mechitza because it's not a permanent thing. So therefore, he says, why is it not permanent? Because it's going to melt. So therefore, even when it's there, we don't see it as really being there long term. It shouldn't be considered stira because it's not really mechubar l'karka because it's not real. It's like a mirage. You see it, but it's not real. Nothing significant. And therefore, he says, but it's still not, it doesn't belong there. It's there temporarily for as long as it's cold. The cold is keeping it there, but it's not really a solid item. Tosfos Shabbos, correct. And he finishes off. Ukvar nohagu lahatir oisan hatovlin b'Shabbos l'tzorech mitzvah. Tosfos Shabbos. Ukvar nohagu lahatir oisan hatovlin b'Shabbos l'tzorech mitzvah. Does it have to go to the mikvah? First, break the ice. I was never zachat to be to break the ice. Not on Shabbos and not during the week. But I know in the cold climates, it was a big thing. You know, the Hasidim used to break the ice. And Shabbos says that was the minhag, even on Shabbos, to allow it. But the Alter Rebbe is strict, by the way. The Alter Rebbe is strict like the Magen Avraham. So, in practice, take a guy along with you, and you can rely on the Tosfos Shabbos to have the guy do it.
Because it's machloket, you're allowed to say the goy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you will not.
Otherwise, maybe still, yes. Darabanan for a mitzvah, double darabanan. Okay,
What about a guy who wants to
it's still a mitzvah. I mean, presumably, it's not a mitzvah, but it's like a.
Special nimuk, why no?
Sorry.
Doesn't make any special nimuk, why no?
It's mukhub al-karka. It's mukhub.
Rabbi, we study about the mitzvah. If you see your rabbi cross the lake, you're allowed to swim to go to him.
Swim, no.
Yes, the
You
lake.
let it go through the water, walking, not swimming.
Walking, that's it. Walking.
Walking, even though your clothes are going to get wet. That's true. Okay. Yud Aleph. Tzorach li zoher b'chorev shelo yitol yada b'mayim shesh b'hem sheleg ebarat. L'mitol yizor shelo yitchakem ben yadav shelo yehem erasik. You have to be careful in the winter that you should not wash your hands with water that has snow or hail in it. And if you do, you should make sure not to press them with your hands. So it shouldn't be that you're squeezing. Here again, we see the Machaber is strict on this question. Because certainly when you're washing your hands, it's water mixed with the snow. Still, he says you should not squeeze it because he considers that a problem. That means the Machaber holds, like he alluded to already in Tess, that if you squeeze it with your hands, even into liquid, it's forbidden. But like we said before, there are Achronim who are lenient about this.
Look at that. They used to break the ice, go to the water. I mean, like today we are too much mifunakim. We have to say thank you to Hashem to give us all that.
Yep, it's a different world, my friends.
In general, snow.
Snow muktzah. Why snow muktzah? Why snow muktzah? Oh, you mean if it snowed on Shabbos? Is that your question?
Hmm?
You mean if it snowed on Shabbos? Is that your question?
Yeah.
If it snowed before Shabbos, it's not muktzah. Snow is the same as water, same as ice. I mean, why? Questions if it snowed on Shabbos.
You gotta take snow and put it in your and use it as ice.
Or no?
Okay.
Sure. You can't build a snowman on Shabbos. You can't even make a snowball on Shabbos because that's like boina. Like boina. You can't make shapes. You can make shapes on Shabbos.
So,
But if you take it, you put it in your cup,
so
you
you
put it in your mouth.
so you walk on the snow like you're in the grass. You allowed to you make a step. It's okay.
Yeah.
What if it fell on Shabbos?
If it fell on Shabbos, then you have to look in the Mishnah Berurah, Siman Shin Yod, Sivkot Lamed Behez, where it says,
If you're walking and it's supposed to snow, you can't even, when you come to the shul, you can't shake off the snow off your coat, correct?
sorry?
You can't shake off the snow off your jacket when you come to the shul.
We learned about that.
Not the rain, snow.
We learned about it, no? What did we learn?
I'm not talking about the water, the rain, but actually the snow.
No, what did we learn? We learned about it.
We're not talking about this rain. Not so much as snow.
What's the question?
I think we mentioned snow too, a
What's the
long
question
time
about?
ago. You let it shake snow off your clothing on Shabbos. No?
If it's black, we
Nothing to do with black when it comes
No, it's all depends, Rabbi. If it sucks it's like if it's stuck like כמו שזה רטוב, זה אסור. זה צריך לזהר שלא יהיה סחיטה.
It's like Fox News. We report, you decide. The deer shoe. He just brings all the opinions. Doesn't tell you what to do. So as far as going back to the snow, I'll answer your question in a minute about the snow on your garment. Talking about snow that falls on Shabbos, he says that the Butchacher Rav, right, they shall have Ram, as well as the Hartzvi, right, the Psu Pesach Frank, they say it's not Noiland, it's not Muksa. And the Rav Yashiv and Shlomo Zalman also say that. Even though it's mamish formed right before it falls. The whole thing about why is rainwater not Muksa? It rained, Friday night it rained, and you come outside and you have a little bowl of water. You left your bowl outside. It's a bowl of water. Why isn't it muktzah? Why isn't it? It's not muktzah. Why? Because it's already in the clouds. In the clouds. It came down.
It was in the clouds previously?
Yeah, exactly. Big deal.
But it wasn't in the same form.
It's considered the same form. It's close enough.
I don't know how they are.
It's not the same as in the air. It's not, of course, actual water, but it's close enough to water to not be considered noilet. Let's put it that way. I don't know how to explain it scientifically, but it's not like the water that they have machines now in Israel where they can just make water out of thin air. They take the water vapor out of water and they create water. Water vapor out of air, right? That would be noilet. That would be noilet. He actually says that here. They didn't have those machines yet, but he talks about the AC. You know what I'm saying? When the air conditioner drips water, he says that's noilet, because that's mamish taking water out of the air.
Condensation.
Exactly. Well, he says little bits of condensation on the window. That's nothing. It's not important.
It's taking the water vapor and it's liquefying.
Exactly, but that's because it's just a small amount. It's not important. But if it actually drips like AC, he says that's muktzah. But in the clouds, it's already considered water. But the snow mamish forms just before it falls, scientifically. Nevertheless, it's still not considered noilet. But then he brings that Reb Shlomo Zalman himself says somewhere else that it is muktzah. He just says that it is muktzah, but he himself says somewhere else that it's not muktzah. It's like opinions. It's basically a machlokes if snow that falls on Shabbos is muktzah or not. So the Maisa, you can walk on it anyway, because you're allowed to walk on muktzah. Question is, are you allowed to pick it up? That's the question.
You're crushing making water.
That's another question. We'll get to that later.
Rabbi, I would say
the secret should be walking on snow.
I understand. We'll learn
I would say if it starts snowing before Shabbat, it continues until after Shabbat. So it's continuation. It's the same thing it's called falling before.
Each flake is a new flake. Each flake is a new flake. Thank you. I thought we discussed snow in Shin Beis. I'm not seeing it. Yeah, we had water, we had dew, but we had snow also. So what do you guys say?
Regarding what the question?
Shaking snow off.
I remember if I go to the synagogue and then I have some on my jacket, you're allowed.
But if the machloket, if it snows, it just fall on Shabbos, if it's mixed up, so you have to take it from one rishut to another rishut.
No, you're not doing it. You're not touching the snow. You're just shaking it off.
But if you're shaking it off, you're like a kilo. But if you just let the coat down without shaking it,
That's not a problem. That's kalachayat. It's not an extra. It's not a muktzah issue. Even if it's muktzah, it's not a muktzah issue. It's kalachayat. The thing is that I mean, I don't think it's a schita issue because the snow is presumably not melted yet. So you're just shaking off the snow and the water that melted. I mean, truth is maybe it's partially melted. That could be a problem. If it's partially melted and you shake it off, then maybe you're going to be squeezing out the part of the snow that already started to melt. That you can't do.
but you mentioned the squeezing only if you think of your hand.
No. Why you say that?
Why?
In Shin Beis, no. In Shin Beis we discussed.
When you ask, let's say if you have your sponge or you go with a garment into the water,
Yeah.
you can come out with this. It's not schita because schita is actually if the water.
Yeah, but you can't shake it. It drips, but you can't shake it.
Just by walking, you're walking causes it to shake. If you go with your short into the water,
Okay, that's a kasha. That's a kasha. But in Shin Beis we learned definitely you cannot shake it. That's because you're not actually shaking it. It doesn't have to be with your hand. That's what it. For sure if you're squeezing it. But even shaking it. In Shin Beis, we learned that the whole question about shaking the new garment black and it bothers you is only about dew because the dew sits on top. But if it's rain, which gets absorbed inside, then you cannot shake it because you're gonna be doing schita. Understand?
If it's absorbed, there's nothing to shake.
What's absorbed, you're shaking it out. What do you mean? That's the whole problem. If it's just on the surface, that would be okay. But if it's absorbed, there's a problem.
The raincoat and plastic.
Okay, plastic is something else. Plastic doesn't absorb. Talking about if it does absorb. So you can't shake it off if it's rained on and if it's wet from rain. But by snow, maybe partially absorbed, partially not absorbed. I mean, my thought is that it should be the same as dew. Meaning to say, because you could shake it off lightly, and therefore, and if anything's absorbed, it's not going to come out. So if it's not new and black and it bothers you, it should be allowed. Because you'll shake it off lightly and that's it. If it's either new or black or it bothers you, then you're going to do it too strong, then it's a problem.
What about carrying? You should shake it before you go into the shul.
No. Carrying it is nothing. It's not
It's something.
No. It's not important. The Chachamim were not goyzer. In general, whenever you carry a chatzi shir, it's not a problem. I mean, it's a problem, but not. But it's not chayev. But when it comes to a chatzi shir that is not important, even the Chacham didn't make exer. That's why you let it walk in rain. That's why you're allowed to walk, and inevitably, if you put your hand in your pocket, you'll definitely find something. Look, I didn't put this in before. Look at that, there's a hair right there. Dropped it as it came out, but it was there.
For sure, it's something there.
There it is, lint. Oh, no problem. It's not important. So things that are not important, the Chachamim didn't make a gzeira on, and the same thing with rain, snow, small amounts, things like that. Because otherwise, it's impossible to live a normal Shabbos. You'll be stuck inside all day because you'll be nervous about this and that. Which is going to relate to what Rafal was asking about stepping on snow and crushing it as you walk. Because it's a psik reisha de la michale and it's kalach hayad and blah blah blah. And if we make you stay at home at the whole Shabbos, that's not a way to spend Shabbos. So the Chachamim will make it. That's not a normal way to squeeze snow. Stepping on it. It's not like grapes that you step on.
So the only way to get home is through. The only way to go to shul, you're gonna have to pass by a field with tall grasses.
Also, tall grass maybe is awesome. Tall grass maybe awesome. Regular grass that maybe breaks and maybe doesn't break. Way in Shin Lamed Zayin, you see it's okay. Because there's other ways, you go around, go another way. Okay, don't go. To say that you can't go out in snow means in the winter you can't leave your house. To say here you want to dafka go in a place with tall grasses, that's not you know what I'm saying? Not the same.
You're allowed to travel off the driveway to open one door on the out of the house.
With an Eruv.
Just enough to open the door.
With an Eruv. With an Eruv.
So, yeah, but otherwise it will be.
Well, if it's noiled, then it's a problem. If it's noiled.
But if it's mixed, some from
It
the door,
is.
some from
How else
outside.
do you get back in?
Sorry?
Talking about that was on Saturday morning.
He is.
Right, so how is it the snow there?
No, but it's a machlokes if snow is noiled or not. We said he brings all these achronim.
They
If it's noiled, then you can't do it. If it's not noiled,
But did you had some from Friday and the just had some Shabbos?
I mean, half is noiled, half is not. But if it's not noiled, then I don't see why not. I don't see why not.
To shovel.
I heard an interesting story about snow on Shabbos from Mendel Nuttig. Mendel Nuttig lives in Seattle, and he was like in Yiddish it's called the Hausbacher. He was like the house bacher that would help the Rebbitzin. The Bacher's wife, yeah. So, I mean, there were other people who helped, but he was one of them. Helping, just little things, running errands, buying things, whatever. So he has a lot of stories about interesting stories. But anyway, so he says one Shabbos, the whole Friday night was snowing. And the Bachim are wondering what's going to be. How's the Rebbe going to get to shul? Rebbe walks from President Street, down President, down Brooklyn, down Eastern Parkway. Pasha like a foot of snow or whatever. So they decided they're going to take care of it. They found a black kid, told them, hinted, whatever they told him, I don't know. They took care of it. They told him by whatever time the Rebbe usually came, there should be a path. So he did his job. Whole path from the Rebbe's door till 770. I don't know how he did it. So he must have worked very fast. Maybe he got his friends. I don't know. Mendel Nuttig said the Rebbe walked out of his house. He didn't set foot in the path. He walked in the snow along the path the whole way. He wasn't happy that they did it on. I mean, he knew they wouldn't do it themselves, but even the heter of using a guy, he wasn't happy that they did that. So then he said that the Rebbe didn't come back because it was all the snow. Usually the Rebbe would come back to have the Shabbos day meal. The Rebbe stayed in 770. And the Rebbetzin wanted that he should have food. So she asked Mendel not to take care of the food. And he said, in general, the Rebbe ate very simply. Rebbe Levitzin very simply. And the bag was like 2 little chalas, a little piece of chicken. It was like, whatever. And so he got the same black kid or a different black kid, whatever, however he said it, taking care of to deliver food to 770.
And did he eat it?
I don't know if he walked with them or he sent them. I don't know. And
He took the path, I think.
he took the path.
But the Rebbe not eat it?
The Rebbe did not touch it.
The
The Rebbe didn't touch it. I'm trying to remember how he got it to the Rebbe. No. Mendel Natik was there. He was there. But I'm trying to remember how he got it into the Rebbe's office. I think he waited. The Rebbe opened
They
the
didn't
door.
have food at 770.
No. It's not like now where they have Kiddushim and it wasn't so organized back then in terms of that. I don't remember how he got it. He got it into the Rebbe's room, but the Rebbe left it. The Rebbe didn't eat it. And after Shabbos, when he told the Rebbetzin remarked something about her husband being very religious. That she had a feeling he wouldn't eat it. But anyway, so. His name is Mendel Natik.
He's in Seattle.
He's in Seattle, yeah. He's not a shliach. He's like a business person, but at that time he was the people who helped out in that house. Anyway, no, 60s probably. Okay, so we go back to Shin Chaf and we continue with Seif Yud Beis. Yesh lizor shelo yishavshif yodav b'melach. You should make sure not to rub your hands with salt. I've never actually tried this, but basically, if you rub your hand with salt, it turns into water. You ever tried it?
Salt does?
Sea salt, table salt. I don't know. Hatam tegam bazeh yishava mayim al yedei hashifshuf. When you rub the salt, it turns into water. Ken? Anybody ever tried it?
I put salt, it doesn't.
Wait, you rub it?
Yes.
Doesn't?
If mosquitoes bite, you take a salt and you rub it. If you put a little bit of water inside, it's better to.
No, but the salt itself doesn't turn.
No, it's not. I don't think so.
I don't know how it works, but that's what it says here.
We are salted.
I can bring it from the kitchen.
Oh, yeah, bring.
Okay.
Let's do an experiment.
Okay.
I hope they're Michael and the salt here.
Saying the manufactured salt, the regular table salt. It's probably salt that was very thick and kind of watery.
You're talking about just melach by himself or water with
It probably draws the water out of the skin.
Oh, you think maybe the water, like the sweat or something?
Yeah.
A bit of the sweat. That
From
could
the
be.
skin, yeah.
That could be. The truth is, it doesn't say it clearly here, but if there's water and salt together, according to the Machaber, it's also a problem. In other words, if you actively dissolve salt in water, the Machaber holds it's also a problem. Like we said before, some are megal, if it's in liquid already, but the Machaber said you can't. But here, he doesn't say that there's any liquid. Sorry?
Said you can when something's inside of the liquid?
No, on the contrary, the Machaber said, Imitli zosh leitchon ken ben yodav.
We have two kinds of salt, Rabbi.
Oh, shkoyach.
One is
And-
pure,
one second, and-
one is-
And in Tess, it also says,
Will
Shomeh, unemeach me'elav ein ha-choishesh. Noisen usach kois shomayim hayayim unemeach me'elav. Shamat Rafa? You can't do it if it's nimeach me'elav. Sorry, you can do it if it's nimeach me'elav. It's mashma if you do it. If you do it yourself, it's not allowed.
Doesn't do anything.
Long term.
No, it doesn't do anything. If you put little bit water, that's it. Then it's work.
That's it's supposed to.
If you sweat,
Nothing.
maybe.
If you sweat, I guess. Yeah, but
You want to touch this water outside?
Nothing.
yeah,
Nothing.
what's the point? I don't know.
Yeah, nothing. All right.
I don't know.
So maybe the other salt in that time it was different than now. Talking about with the snow, Rabbi. Snow with the salt. If it's a snow with the salt,
Alter Rebbe actually spells out that we're talking about salt without water. Because if you put the salt in water first, it already melts in the water, and then you can use it. So, I guess maybe it just means that there's a little bit of liquid sweat that will come out of your hands, and then it'll melt.
in the snow.
That's what I'm guessing. Okay, Doires Sheleg Baraglov.
The sauce has to be turned into water. It's just like you're grinding it.
No, it's not about grinding.
Like
Not about grinding.
Now the Rebbe said, "Mipnei shamelech nimo."
What does Nimach mean? Nimach means melts. Melts, dissolves. It's not about crushing.
It's dry item.
Not about crushing. It says, "I will mutter lahashlet mayim v'melach v'liver b'hem." Abi shamat nimcha shomei elav. What happens in water? It doesn't break into pieces. It's nimcha. It dissolves. But because it dissolves on its own, it's okay. Okay. Now, Doris Sheleg Baragla Ve'enoi Choishesh. You Gimel, you're allowed to step on snow and it's no problem. Why? Because maybe it will melt, maybe not. It's not it's a davar she'einu miskaven.
Unless, especially if it's not your intention. It's your intention to melt it.
No, it's not going to be your intention to melt.
No, just in case you're doing this on purpose.
It's like an addition,
Then you
right?
shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it. We're talking about you're walking to shul. You're walking.
It's the same halacha you work with the deshe,
Exactly. Maybe it'll break, maybe it won't break. It's not your intention. Although the Taz discusses a case, and Alter Rebbe mentions it also, what if you are definitely going to melt the snow because your feet are already wet? Your feet are wet, your shoes are wet. And the moisture, I'm saying the liquid, it's gonna melt it, for sure. Still the Taz wants to say it's mutter.
It's freezing. It's wet.
No, you machloket min hastam.
Haram me Rottenberg, mater the Udalit. Haram me Rottenberg, mater lahatel me Yaglan b'sheleg. V'arosha in is her. You're walking on Shabbos and you have to go to the bathroom. What do you do? There's snow all around. And there's no, you know what I'm saying, in those days, you do what you have to do. The Rottenberg says, okay, it's mutter lahatel me Yaglan b'sheleg. Why? Well, first of all, according to the opinion that says you're allowed to melt it in liquid, even b'yadayim, so this is not less than that. You understand? Right? We said before there are opinions that say you could actively melt salt in liquid, even with your hands, because it's considered it's mixing in right away to something else. So according to that, there's no problem here at all. But even according to the Machmirim, well, over here, still in all, you're not doing it on purpose. Your intention is not to do it. And it's also not the normal way. Understand? So there's more room to be makel. We're going to see, and the Alter is going to give us, is going to flesh it out a little bit more and give some more reasons to be lenient. The Rosh was careful. He would not. All right, my friends, let us do the Alter Rebbe. Tes Zayin. Asheleg v'habord v'chol k'yotze behem. Snow and hail and everything similar. Also, l'rasek oisum biyadayim, and it's forbidden to squeeze by hand. Meaning to say, to break them into small pieces in order that their liquids should flow. Because it is similar to a malacha, because you're creating that water. Here the Alter Rebbe only mentions the reason of the Sefer Truma, that it's like creating. But in Shin Yud he also mentioned the idea that it's like mashkin shezavu, that it's like liquids that come out of a fruit. You're allowed to put ice or whatever into a cup of water or wine in the summer in order to cool it, and it will melt on its own. That's no problem. Because once again, it is, first of all, you're not doing it directly. And second of all, it's just becoming part of the cup. It's not going to be recognizable on its own. Similarly, you can put them in the sun or opposite a fireplace, in a place where it cannot heat to the point of Yatzel Ledes Boy, and they will liquefy there on their own. This is, according to the first opinion, yes, you can do it and you can drink it. This is the opinion of the Ramban, the Ran, the Machaber, and this is the first opinion that the Alter mentions here. Some say, they only permitted you to put it into a cup because then what melts is not recognizable on its own, but rather it mixes into the water or the wine. But when it melts on its own, also for the b'diavad, it's forbidden, even b'diavad. For the reason that will be that was explained over there, that it's like mashkin shazav, it's like liquids that come out, which are forbidden even b'diavad. It's two things. It's noiled, but it's also like mashkin shazav, like liquid that came out of fruits. That is also even b'diavad. If those fruits were planning to be squeezed, if people were planning to squeeze those fruits. So Kvarnis Bar Shami already explained over there. The main halacha is like the first opinion. But in the first place, the minhag is to be strict.
So, but you learned that by the ice, you can't drink ice that melts. It will no water.
You can make it melt.
It means it melt by itself. You shouldn't drink the water.
No, not true. No, didn't learn it.
Ice, if you have ice in a bowl and ice, no, you shouldn't drink those water.
We didn't learn that. You're making a mistake. Look back in Siman Shin Yud Ches.
So this is different than what the Mechaber says, that you can melt.
This is the Rama. Second opinion is the Rama.
Ah.
Chav Zayin. You see Chav Zayin? Shin Yuches? Yeah? So, towards the end, he says, L'inyan halacha, nohagu lahachmer lechatchila kisvora harishona. Ava b'diyeved yesh lakol kisvora achrayna. Afil lechatchila yesh lismach b'makam hatzorach kisvora achrayna kichei nigar. The machlokes if you can melt the gravy over there. They're talking about gravy, here talks about ice, but it's the same machlokes. So he brings two opinions, and he says, Lachatchila, we, meaning to say Ashkenazim, are machmer. We don't do it. No, Lachatchila means we don't do it. We don't do it. We don't melt the gravy. We don't melt the ice, Lachatchila. You shouldn't take a bottle of water that was left in the freezer and take it out and melt it, because that's Lachatchila. But he says, if you already took it out, you already melted it, b'diavad, you could drink it.
Unless there's some part of the water didn't froze.
Then you could do it lechatchila. Then you could do lechatchila.
If you have ice in the bowl, all melt. Ice that people
Yeah.
shouldn't taste as water.
Why not? I just, Alter Rebbe says, Aval b'diavad yesh lahakol. It's good enough for the Alter Rebbe. It's good enough for me. If you don't want it, give it to me. I mean, the truth is, if you want to know the truth, Reb Shlomo Zalman says, it's brought, he brings it here in the Dirshu. When it says b'diyeved yesh lahakal, it means something that is important, like gravy. Nebuch, you're going to throw out the gravy. It's such good stuff. But water, it's not a b'diyeved because everybody has plenty of water. What do you have to drink that water for? You can open the tap and you have water just as good. So that's a chiddush. You hear what I'm saying? Shlomo Zalman holds that this b'diavad does not apply to water, because water is so easy to get. So what's the big b'diavad? Dafka need that water. Okay, but I'm just saying, if you want to be machmer.
No, this is the way I learned. Like, I remember that don't drink some water that fell by himself. You have water with this, or ice.
The Rebbe says b'diavad yesh lahakal, but Shlomo Zalman says maybe that doesn't apply to water. Okay, maybe. Misha rotzeh lahachmir yesh lo alav al milas moch. But the simple reading of the Rebbe is that b'diavad it's mutter.
Rabbi, I would have said when you have a salachat ice,
Yeah.
some they touch him with the hand. So whatever left, you don't want to drink it anyway, because too many hands is touching over there.
זה כל אחד לפי
No, but
הרגשתו.
we're allowed to drink it. It's good for me too. I drink that too sometimes.
Okay? הצלחה. אמן.
Minion.
הלוואי there was a minion. Okay. I wish.
Like Baomer, we must have it. It's a bracha.
What can I say? I wish we'd have a minion, but I don't know. Everybody would actually come on the same night. We would have a minion.
Like Baomer,
Lag BaOmer, we're not going to be here. Lag BaOmer is a Wednesday night. Oh, and I forgot to. Did I post? I think I posted it. Did you all get invitations?
Yeah, but
Upshurnish?
sure.
You get it?
Wasn't so clear that it's Except like a birthday, but I'm assuming.
It's an upshernish. It's an upshernish.
What's that? What's that?
I'll repost it.
But what's that, Rabbi?
You don't have WhatsApp?
What's
Wow.
Rabbi? What's that, Rabbi?
Shh, koyach. My son. It's Wednesday night, Lag BaOmer,
It's a busy day.
at the Breslov Center. What's up? It's the Breslov Center.
Rabbi, could I get on your WhatsApp account?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
No, but it's in and out. It's not. You don't have to stay for the whole time. You give a snip and you go. Okay, I just posted it now.
Mazel tov. He's already 3?
No, he turns 3 on Lag BaOmer actually.
I'm like Palmer.
Yep, 3 years ago. It was a Thursday also, just like this year.
Wow, birthday.
Baruch Hashem.
This is the one, the younger, the young boy in your house that's 3.
I just added you, Daniel.
What's the older boy over 3?
He's Shirl. He's 5. Just turned 5.
Rabbi is already 3 years past?
Yeah, remember the bris?
Yeah, yesterday.
Yep,
Oh my
almost.
goodness.
Apple?
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, David is asking, what if you go to a certain mikvah and there's a lot of sand and mud on the floor with tiny little pebbles? After you go on mikvah and put your socks back on, there's a tiny pebble inside your sock and you walk outside an Eruv. Ouch. It hurts. Is this a problem? Because even though you try to get all the pebbles off your feet before putting socks back on, there may still be one tiny pebble you miss. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how tiny it has to be to not be a problem, but certainly at a certain point, we say it's not a problem because there are definitely little, pieces of things that get stuck to your shoe, and you don't have to clean your shoe every time you go out because they're not important. So, if it's something that you can get out easily, for sure you should get it out. But if it's something very small, I don't think it's significant. I don't know exactly how to classify small, very small. I don't know exactly. Okay, so we continue and we say, "V'yesh omrim shelo yitir litain letoch hakodesh ani moachen ben levad lemoer b'yayin or b'mam shebekodesh l'm shnemoach ben levad also b'yayin v'moed l'dam shesbar." Farnes bar sham shal iker kesvar rishona l'shalachatchil noegel hachmer. The main halacha is like the first opinion, like the Ramban, like the Ran, that it's only also to do mamish b'yadayim. None of it happens on its own. But lachatchila Ashkenazim are machmer. Lo yasur, we continue with Yud Zayin. Lo yasur lekshem miskavin lerasek b'shlosh yosuvu meimav. It's only forbidden if you intended to squeeze it so that the water would flow. But you're allowed to break a piece of it. Even if some of the water will melt as a result of this. It's a small amount that's not important. He doesn't intend it. That's not obsecration. Whatever it is, it gets lost right away. What's the whole thing about squeezing water, about squeezing ice, is that it's like squeezing a fruit. When you squeeze a fruit, you save the fruit juice. You don't throw it out. So when you squeeze ice in such a way that the liquid gets wasted, that's not even similar to squeezing fruit juice, because you don't squeeze fruit juice for wasting. So over here, when you break the ice, talking about if you break the ice to get to the water that's underneath it, whatever breaks, that's nothing. You're not saving that. So therefore, it doesn't look like squeezing fruit. Yes.
I would say with the orange juice, when you squeeze the,
Right.
I mean, we have a solid. In the ice, we have no solid.
Okay, לא משנה.
לא משנה.
לא משנה.
You see what I'm...
Yeah, the whole thing becomes liquid, but it's still similar. Okay, we continue and we say, it's not at all like when you squeeze a fruit that was going to be squeezed, because over there you don't waste the water. You don't make a decree on one for the other. You're allowed to break the ice to get to the water underneath it. You're not creating water. As far as breaking ice, that's nothing. Any non-connected item that is not a kli, there is no prohibition in breaking it. Which was we said in Siman about a leather that's on top of a barrel. But on a river or a well, because it's connected to the ground, also l'shoifer, it's forbidden to break it. Like we said before, from the Magen Avraham. Says the Alter Rebbe Yuntes, you should make sure not to rub your hands with salt, because the salt is going to liquefy on your hands. You're allowed to put water in salt and use it to wash your hands, even though it will melt. You can't actively melt it with your hands. In the winter, you should not wash your hands with water that is mixed in with snow or hail. Because they're even going to be melting even easier than salt. And if you do, you shouldn't squeeze them between your hands, so that you shouldn't be considered squeezing it actively. And some say this is what we mentioned in the Mishnah Berurah also. Ramban Rashba Ran, in the name of the Tosefta, as long as what you squeeze is not going to be separate, it immediately mixes them with something else. Even if you do it with your hands, it's mutter. This opinion, you're allowed to rub your hands in water that's mixed in with salt.
Where's the Shaman, by the way?
He brings the Ramban, Rashba, and Ran in the name of the Tosefta. You're allowed to. Why? Because it's going to be since it mixes in. Same thing. If you have hail in the water, you can squeeze it in the water. Like we said before, one of the reasons for this whole Isser is it's like squeezing fruit. Because the snow and hail is expected to become liquid, so it's like fruit in that sense. If it mixes with something else, so it's never a noticeable separate item, it's not included in the decree because you never even notice it. It's not like when you squeeze fruit that normally you have an empty thing, you squeeze, and then you get liquid. Over here, it's never going to be a separate entity. It's right away going to be squeezed into something else. And the Alter Rebbe Paskins like the first opinion. So in the Mishnah, and that you can't do it biyadayim even into something else directly. You can't squeeze the borad or the ice in the water. You can't wash with water and ice mixed in, even though it's going to mix in with the water, but because you're doing it biyadayim, it's forbidden.
So, not going to be a case that you're allowed to freeze the ice or
No,
snow.
never biyadayim. Never biyadayim.
So it's like the same approach of the skip.
Exactly. Exactly. Somebody's there?
4 guys looking for me.
The front door was locked? You locked it?
You're not opening it. I just open and close it. Nobody can go from outside.
Okay. Ulefikach. Okay. Ulefikach, for this reason. Yesh mishoya nizar lahatal mayim b'shelek. Some people were careful and they would not go to the bathroom, they would not urinate in snow. Because as a result of the urine, the snow would melt. It's like you're doing it with your hands, which is forbidden according to the first opinion.
But he's used the word nizar, but not the word asu. Nizar, careful. But it is like in a way like asu.
Shamash.
Okay.
But if you have like, if you're holding it, you're going to be over what you sakatsu. If you're going to do it, you're not going to be melted. So what's going to be, let's see, in the big one, you walk in the snow. If you're holding it too long, it's going to be over what sakatsu kollega. What steps you to do it?
I mean, the Ba'isad alter b'zmekel. Tov lizar b'makom she'efsher lizar b'kal. He finishes Chaf. At the end of Chaf, he says, "Tov lach b'makom she'efsher lizar b'kal." So it depends if you can or not. Why does he say V'arosha Nizar and not that the Rosh said it's Aser? Is that your question?
No, I mean like because it's nizar. I mean like it's not like if you have to, there's a place to allow it. Like say asu that I mean like when using with the word nizar, just give you an opinion that.
What, that maybe it was only his own chumrah, but he didn't hold it was Asma Adin? Is that what you mean? I just want to look at the tour. I want to see where this comes from, this lashon. Adayin Yav Yerosh Haya Nizar B'Davar. Maybe he means that. I mean, it's interesting because in the Beis Yosef, he doesn't give a source for this tour. Beis Yosef always gives the sources. There is no source here. I'm guessing that the tour, the Rosh's son, noticed that his father, the Rosh, never went to the bathroom in the snow. So he didn't want to say Aser, because his father never gave a psak that it's Aser. I mean, at least Beis Yosef doesn't bring any Rosh that says it's Aser. But he was Nizar, he didn't do it. So maybe he didn't hold that it's Aser Mamish. But he himself didn't do it.
Didn't he move to Africa?
He never moved to Africa, he moved to Spain. He started off in Germany, he moved to Spain. In Spain, does it snow? I don't know. It can snow in Spain? Okay. Fine. But definitely in Germany it snows. Okay. We continue and we say, some people were careful not to urinate in snow. It's like you're doing it with your hands. It's also according to the first opinion. Even though it's not going to be noticeable on its own, and it's going to be wasted anyway. Nevertheless, the Rosh was careful because he held that you can't do it actively, even if it mixes in with something else right away. You're allowed to step on snow with your feet, even though maybe it's not going to melt. Even if it does, it's not intended. It's mutter because it's not a definite consequence. Now here's the test I mentioned before. Yesh mishoimer, and some say, Shafilo amenalayim lachim, even if your shoes are wet, ubevadid namis hashalek. And for sure, the the snow is going to melt. Mutter, it's mutter. According to this opinion, the Taz, you're allowed to also urinate in snow. And here's the vort. Taz says the Chachamim do not make Shabbos impossible for people. Right? That's a thing that the Chachamim do. They want Shabbos to be an enjoyable day at the end of the day. They don't want you to be stuck in your house. Somebody called me on Friday. He wanted to know if he can take. He wanted to know if he can take a foot massage on Shabbos. A guy comes and gives him a foot massage.
With no cream. What?
Cream, no cream. Oil, no oil. I said, what's up with Shabbos? I mean, why do you have to have it done on Shabbos? He said, no. He said, listen, I'm on a cruise. And I don't have anything to do on Shabbos. Because on Shabbos, I don't go to the events on the boat. So I literally stay in my cabin for like the whole Shabbos. I'm bored. So I want to at least take a foot massage. That's not what Shabbos is supposed to be like.
It's a professional massage.
It is a professional massage. He has problems with his feet, whatever. I didn't allow it. No, I didn't allow it. Besides the fact that it's just not a Shabbos kind of thing. If he needs it, you know what I'm saying? Maybe a goy, whatever. But if he's just doing it because it's convenient, that's not a. Anyway, but that's not really what Shabbos is supposed to be in the first place. To just stay at home, even if you're doing learning, but you're supposed to enjoy Shabbos a little bit. So therefore, the Chachamim wouldn't have made this. After all, even if it's a psik reisha, it's definitely only d'Rabbanan, right? The whole thing of melting snow is only d'Rabbanan. And here, it's an unintended, even if it's a psik reisha, it's not intended. So it's a psik reisha b'd'Rabbanan, plus it's kalach hayad, right? It's not your intention. And it's hoylech li'ibud, it's going to waste. So it's not really similar to fruit juice, which is not going to waste. So even if it would be forbidden, but because it's only d'Rabbanan and it has all these other leniencies, the Chachamim were not strict because they didn't want us to be stuck inside for a whole Shabbos. Yeah.
If you're doing it on top of the tree, it's leaking to the snow.
Maybe it's like grama. In addition to everything else, it's also grama, not direct. It's good to be strict in a place that it's easy to be careful regarding the above. Meaning to say, if you have a way out, if you can go to the bathroom before you leave or when you come, better. But if it's not possible.
But when you have two options, like I said before, you want to be machmir and not to do it in this.
Yeah.
On the other hand, by holding yourself, you are going by shaketsu.
Okay. So that's what he says. If you're able to be, then better to be machmir. If you can't be.
Even if you could hold it, you shouldn't.
I understand.
Every step you're doing it like.
Okay, it depends how bad. You know what I'm saying? Depends how bad. Depends how bad. Yeah, indeed. Okay, let me share with you, if I have anything to share here from. No, the ground you can. The Alter says you can. Yeah.
Why not going to be mashke?
No.
Why?
Because the yeah, it's acid. It doesn't help it grow. The Alter says. Shin Lamed Zayin, I think. Zayin Shin Lamed Ches. No, he says there. He discusses it. Says it doesn't help. It's not good for the plants. On the contrary, it's bad for it. So that's why it's allowed. Well, you're not allowed to uproot it, but you're not uprooting it. It's bad for it in general, but it's not killing it, mamish. Okay, a few points from the Dirshu. First of all, he says, as far as washing your hands with soap, Rama says not to use hard soap because you are dissolving it.
The bar soap.
The bar soap, exactly. Who uses it today? I don't know.
Still sell.
They do sell it, yes. They do sell it. Some permit it. He says the Shilta Gibarim does permit it.
מחלוקת?
Machloket.
יש על מי לסמוך?
Yesh al mi l'smoch for, I think Sfardim are lenient. No, I think Sfardim are lenient on bar soap. Pretty sure Sfardim are lenient. I read
Bar
that
soap?
on bar soap, yeah.
On bar soap. Bar soap?
That's shocking.
Why is it shocking?
Besides the Shilti Gibor. I don't know.
I don't know. It's just, I always thought it was usher to everybody.
It is also, but I believe Sfardim are lenient. And since Raphael is not backing me up, I'll actually have to look it up.
What?
And I did it for look it up.
Every time I see soap on you go to a hotel, you see the soap on the small.
Huh?
I mean, the hotel, you see the soap on.
All right, give me a moment. Ouch. Tzich the Nove, first of Puzim. Kashid glasses in a car. Okay, he doesn't discuss it here. I guess he saves it for Shin Chavav, which has more about this question.
Yeah, it says right here. Yeah.
What?
Lenient, yeah.
Oh, where is it? Where is it?
Chazon of Agya Shabbat, part 3, page 46.
You have that notes for Chacham?
Was on Avadia? I don't think so.
Sephardic and Middle Eastern Jews who a lot of rules may act leniently and wash their hands with bar soap on Shabbat.
Is there more to it?
I'm just thinking about Ashkenazim.
Oh, here it is. יש שם שעושה לחץ יונה בסבון בשבס, ויש מתיר, וסוים שם וזה למשום ממחל, למשום מרח, למשום לילה, וכן דס הרמב"ם, לכן מקום הצורך, לרפם ולאחויס, המטפלים בחוילם, צריך לחץ ידיהם לאחר גמל הטיפול בחוילם מותר, אבל מקום שאפשר להחמר, טוב לחץ שצריך חלקם. למין למחוץ משנה הקטר בדבר, אפילו בלי הכרח, וכן אשכנזים מחמיר. So here it says טוב להחמר.
So you warned me before. Sound like from the beginning, it's not only if it's.
Tov lachosh. Exactly. Tov lachosh. Tov lachosh. Yeah. Okay, everybody said there's more to talk about, but we'll stop here and continue tomorrow. Mitzvah Hashem. We have to finish the points that the Dirshu brings up. Talk about hard soap, talk about liquid soap, talk about making ice, you were asking. We'll get to it tomorrow night in Mitzvah Hashem, and then hopefully we'll move on to squeezing garments. We have to discuss that as well. All right, have a good night, everybody.